What's up, guys? Sub-Zero here, back for I'm not actually sure exactly what this is. This is going to be a talkie type video about a recent controversy regarding stats in the TFT scene and competitive integrity and all these kind of things. As you can probably already tell, I have a lot of conflicting feelings about this, and that's why I wasn't even completely sure if I was going to record this video or not. But at the end of the day, I said, I have a platform in this community, and this is something that is really, really important. If this isn't addressed correctly, um, it can lead to some very bad things for TFT competitive integrity, and it also raises questions just about a lot of stuff, stats bans in general, and all that kind of stuff. So I'll catch you up on it if you are not aware. So yesterday, Gooba, active TFT member, another bald TFT bro, shout out to Gooba, posted this tweet. It's a screenshot from a Learning TFT video. If you guys don't know Learning TFT, he's someone who a lot of his videos are like him getting coaching from high elo TFT players and just like showing like VODs of himself getting coached, which I think is really, really cool content for anybody who's trying to get better at TFT. But in this video, and here, I can zoom in on this a bit better. He has DMs with Marcel P. Marcel P, I've VOD reviewed Marcel P before, fantastic TFT player. He has really like risen up as like a streamer. He is now sponsored to go to the Macau Open by MetaTFT, which is a huge piece of this. And yeah, just really like ascending one of those players who is like on the rise, becoming a really, really strong TFT player. And in these DMs, at the bottom of the DMs, Marcel P says something that a lot of people saw and thought was crazy. Marcel said, MetaTFT founder gives us stats but can't say publicly. And a lot of people said, okay, this is crazy. Obviously, this said augment stats were banned. And so a lot of people thought, okay, that must mean that he is getting like secret augment stats from the MetaTFT founder. The only way that the MetaTFT founder has these stats is that MetaTFT has an overlay, like a lot of other sites, and they can use that overlay to scrape stats. This is how on last set, there were things like charm statistics. Charm statistics didn't exist in the game, in the match history via Riot's API, but MetaTFT was able to use their overlay, collect those stats, and give people charm statistics. And so theoretically, they can still collect and post things like augment statistics. In this case, what's a really, really big factor is anomaly statistics, which was actually the case here. But the idea is they have all these statistics, and the only thing stopping them from posting them is that Riot Games has said, if you post augment stats, because MetaTFT could post their own augment stats if they wanted to, and they would be quite accurate because they're coming from all of these games from the overlay. They could do that, but the reason that they don't do that is because Riot has said, if you do that, we're going to revoke your API access. You are going to be on our not nice list. And that's really bad for a site that, their entire relation to everybody is through TFT. If Riot Games doesn't like you, that's pretty bad. So a lot of people thought this was related to augment stats, and a lot of stuff was said. Marcel responded to this yesterday later and basically clarified that this actually wasn't in reference to augment stats. This was in reference to anomaly stats. And no specific stats were given. What happened is Marcel, and I don't know who exactly this is because he's blanked out the names. So I don't know if this is Marcel or someone else, but someone said, can we get best anomaly for Camille? I don't know if it's still invisible or not. The MetaTFT founder said, I'm slightly hesitant to share our stats in case Riot aren't happy with it, but it looks like Knockout is her new best. Invisibility definitely up there. This is after the nerf to invisibility. Knockout, really, really solid anomaly on Camille. Avarice Incarnate looks surprisingly good on her. Maybe that's just bias, like stats bias. Oh yeah, this one's Giga Broken on Camille. So the MetaTFT founder was not sharing augment stats, but was basically using anomaly stats to specifically share information with Marcel. I think there's another page here where there's another exact section where they're asking, where I think this is specifically the MetaTFT founder says, this anomaly seems really good with Rebel, particularly Zoe/Jinx. So diving into the data and giving this information to people. And as far as I understand it, this is the private MetaTFT Discord with the people who are on the MetaTFT team. I don't think that's confirmed 100%, but it seems like the implication. In any case, this is not, as far as I understand, on like a public Discord or anything like this. This is a private Discord with some amount of people on it. So that is what happened here. Is the founder of MetaTFT, the founder also made a post about this, kind of explaining a little bit of why like he ended up setting this information out. What I thought was kind of interesting in this post, though, is that he talks about how, they, at the start of the set, they basically had a page together for Anomaly stats. Like I was talking about with charm stats, there was charm stats last set. They were gonna post, you would be able to go to MetaTFT and see a little part on the website. You click onto it and it would show Anomaly stats. It was ready to go at set launch. However, due to some of Mort's wording around the augment stats ban, we held off on releasing it because at the end, when Mort Dog was talking about stats being banned, augment stats, he said Anomaly buffs in Into the Arcane are similarly not on match history for this very reason. So it's very clear from Mortog's post that they did not want Anomaly stats to be posted. They said they weren't explicitly banned, so they wanted to wait and reach out to Riot, but it's pretty obvious, I would say, reading this, that they don't want Anomaly stats to be out there, and that if MetaTFT did release these stats publicly, Riot Games would look badly on that. And so that's basically those are all the facts of the situation. I will now give you guys a nice VOD to watch through. I found this VOD, by the way, by looking at MetaTFT's VOD Explorer, which I will say, well, we'll talk about that a little bit, but MetaTFT, they make a lot of really, really cool tools, which is part of what sucks about this entire situation. So those are the facts of the situation. One thing I will say off from rip is that I don't really see how Marcel or the MetaTFT founders' explanations really make this any less bad. I think augment stats are like a really kind of like hot button issue, and a lot of people, really, really hate. They really either want their augment stats or they want augment stats completely removed. And so, maybe it's just because it's less of kind of like a hot button issue that people, don't, maybe if it's Anomaly stats, people are more okay with that. But in my opinion, it's the exact same level of severity. You are giving a player stats that are not given to the rest of the community. That's the biggest issue at the heart of all of this, is that certain players are receiving information that is not made public whatsoever. And some people have come out with the explanation, well, if you have a study group with 5 other people and, you share this augment is broken, I mean, isn't that a similar thing? I would argue absolutely not. This is data that is scrapped, that is scraped using an app and then is shared with certain people. So at the end of the day, those people who are receiving this information are getting a benefit because of their relationship with a company that nobody else is getting. It's not like they're doing the work of studying themselves. They're literally just getting a bunch of data that no one else has access to because of that relationship, and being able to use it to have much better decisions in game, essentially. So that's the first thing. I don't really buy that explanation that it's like the same as like studying in a study group. That seems crazy to me. And also, it does seem to me like this is still, a big problem. I would still say, even after the explanation, I'm not satisfied to say that there was no wrongdoing here. Because the other part of it is to say, well, we knew that we weren't supposed to post these. We weren't supposed to post. That's funny. It's a tongue twister. We were not supposed to post these stats publicly, but then we share them internally. That also really seems not good, in my opinion. Just like saying that back, you're saying it's pretty clear that Riot Games doesn't want you to post these stats publicly, so we're not going to post them publicly. We're just going to share them with players internally who are our sponsored players and our players that I like. I don't know if that's worse than posting the stats publicly against Riot's wishes, but it's close. It could, honestly, I could see the argument that is straight up worse than just posting the stats publicly, because there's the sense of impropriety. There's the sense of you basically like hiding this information and making it so that only only specific people get this information, the people that you deem. And that, at the end of the day, that is the big issue here. That is the huge issue, and a huge potential hit to competitive integrity in TFT if certain people are getting this information. But why this upsets so many people is there are tons of people out there who are masters in TFT, grandmasters in TFT, even challengers in TFT, who say, you know what, I really want to get good at TFT. I really want to break in the competitive scene. Tons of people probably who are going to Macau, which this is another huge part of it, is there is a team of players from MetaTFT, who MetaTFT is sponsor, who are going to Macau, this tournament that is happening in like a week from now, where people are competing for, first place is like $100,000 or something. There's a ton of money on the line. And for there to be potentially this issue with competitive integrity, that's really scary for TFT. If it comes out that the person who won the Macau Open was somebody who had essentially an unfair advantage by using stats that they were given from somebody else, or some kind of like tool. Other people have said that, okay, maybe there we won't have this exact scenario pop up where stats are given from like a dev, but maybe someone used like a tool to scrape VODs and stuff like that. If that happened, I think still there would be the sense of impropriety, and that like this player, that win wasn't really deserved because they had a leg up on everybody else, and they had that through relationships with other people, or doing something outside of the game. That is the scary part about the augment stats ban, and just stats bans in general, is that if anyone gets stats, if specific people get stats, really is the thing, then it completely unlevels the playing field. And I would say that this scenario is the worst case scenario for a stats ban or stats removal, where only specific people get access to stats. You can have the scenario where everybody has stats, what we were in prior to this set. Everybody gets augment stats. You can deal with that, and people can filter it down, and they can play around stats wherever, and it's all good. Or you can have the alternative scenario where nobody has stats. This is where we were, prior to this controversy happening, where no one has stats, but either way, everyone or no one having stats, it's a level playing field. This is the worst case, though, where only some people have access to stats. So if you are one of those people on the outside, you start to feel like, well, what's the point of competing in TFT if like it's basically like one big like club where like, the best players, they share these stats with each other that they get through basically unfair means, and use those to, get higher ranked and pop off and in tournaments and stuff like that. And I don't have access to that, so I just don't have a chance. I think that is, if that becomes a prevailing sentiment, that feels really, really bad for anyone trying to break into competitive TFT. And I would just say like, that's why there needs to be some kind of response to this. And now, like, as far as the response, as far as, like things like punishment and that kind of stuff, this is where things get really, really awkward. Like I talked about, MetaTFT has done a ton of stuff for the TFT community. The VOD library is how I grabbed this VOD. I looked for, I'm a little silly, but I just looked for dish soap games, and I looked for the most recent first that he had. So spoilers, he goes first this game. But I wanted to find just like a fun, VOD to play while I talk about this not very fun topic. And yeah, we, just go from there and just watch this game. Also, really cool slams from dish soap here. Guardbreaker Sunfire is pretty interesting. But yeah, like that is a fantastic tool for anyone who's trying to get better at TFT. They can use that to find specific comps and learn. If I want to find a Firelight Camille game, because that's the VOD I did yesterday, looked up Firelight Emblem, looked up Camille easily. I found a ton of resources where I can VOD review these players. If you want to see people who are like gaining elo really, really quickly, they have tools for that, where you can look at people who have recently like gone on huge winning streaks. Like there's so many cool things that you can, like cool tools that MetaTFT's created. Boardle has been a really, really cool tool for people practicing understanding strongest board, and also just like a fun little thing to do in your spare time is pull up the Boardle, evaluate which board beats the other board. It's fantastic. Like these devs have done so much work. And so I would hate for this to lead to like, the death of MetaTFT or something like that. If Riot's just like, we're going to go really hardball on this and we're going to completely, ban MetaTFT forever. I would hate that, because I feel like the TFT would actually lose something really, really important, something that, is really good for the entire community. Like I said, MetaTFT, I think their impact has been unequivocally positive on the TFT community, at least prior to this situation. So I would hate to see that happen. The other piece of it is I feel like this sucks for the players on Team MetaTFT. Like these are people who have all worked really, really hard. They're about to go into one of the biggest tournaments of their lives. This is a tournament that can absolutely like define careers. It can be a life-changing amount of money. Like this is a huge, huge tournament, and there are a lot of people who have done a lot of work. And at the end of the day, if and it's a big if these are the only two areas where they receive stats, and we also don't know who receives stats. It seems like Marcel, of course, did, but there's a lot of other people on Team MetaTFT. Did they receive stats? It's not really clear. If Marcel only received those two stats, and it wasn't even really stats, it was just like these are good on these units, then that's not a huge, competitive advantage. Like, it's not like he is going to win Macau because he knows that that's a good anomaly on Camille. Marcel's a good enough player that he could just reason that that anomaly is good on Camille. It's pretty straightforward. But the issue is the sense of impropriety and the fact that Riot Games is going to have to do. I think they will have to do some kind of investigation. I think the MetaTFT founder said, like, you can look at our Discord, you can look through all the logs on our Discord and see what has been said on there. And I think that obviously has to be step one, is them looking into all the logs. Problem is, stuff can be said in voice calls that won't end up on the logs and stuff like that. So that's a difficulty. But at least step one has to be looking through all of these logs and getting that information to see if there's other stuff being shared. But I think it does also, obviously, it sucks for the players who have worked really, really hard. And the third piece of this is that Riot has tried to be much more harsh with punishments recently. The Shunga ban comes to mind, where Shunga got banned for something that I would say is way, way less bad than what happened here. The sense of impropriety is way, way higher in this situation than Shunga playing on another account and like getting some solo queue games in, essentially. That being said, I don't think these players should be banned. I think the Shunga ban was way too harsh, and I think like banning a bunch of people who have put in a ton of work because they received one or two stats is too harsh. But that's where I also become like really, really conflicted, is that there needs to be a punishment. There needs to be some punishment for this, whether that's on MetaTFT side, whether that's on the player side. I kind of lean towards the punishment being for MetaTFT because of the fact that they were the ones like giving out these stats. It's at the end of the day, it should be the responsibility of a site like this to be really, really tight-lipped with these stats. If you're collecting this data, you cannot be giving this to any players, because it's terrible for competitive integrity. Imagine worst case scenario, worst case scenario, MetaTFT does have augment stats, and they were saying, oh yeah, don't pick this augment. The stats on it look horrible. I can't tell you exactly what the stats are, because some people are like, well, they didn't say exactly what the stats were. If you say this anomaly is really good, this augment is really, really bad, if you say either one of those, you are giving a huge competitive advantage to those players. So that's obviously like worst case scenario. And obviously I'm not saying that is occurring, but if something like that was occurring, how bad would that be for the competitive scene in TFT? It would be horrible. It would completely undermine competitive integrity. And the fact that something like that is possible, suggests that Riot needs to be really, really, really serious about this. And I would say issue a penalty and say to like the MetaTFT devs, like this can never happen again. And a lot of people are saying, all right, this is the second time that stats bans have failed. We're gonna have stats back after the New Year's or something like that. I don't really agree with that, but I do agree that if this were left unaddressed, then that could certainly be the case. If Riot isn't willing to do some kind of like punishment here and make sure, ooh, bad luck protection. This is actually such a sick game from Dish Soap. But yeah, like if Riot isn't willing to, do some kind of severe punishment in a spot like this, then I think, okay, that means that they basically have to give stats to everyone. Because if in Riot's view that this is okay, then I just think the competitive integrity is just feels horrible. If this is something that is allowed, then this just means that people are getting a leg up on other people, and I don't think Riot thinks that this is okay. And the question will then be just kind of like, okay, so where does the punishment end up lying? Is this something where, and I'm realizing like honestly, I have a lot to say about this, but I think I can get through it before the end of this pod. But if there is no punishment, then I think it does open up Pandora's box, because a lot of people will say, okay, these players, didn't get punished for it, or this organization didn't get punished for it. Riot, gives them a slap on the wrist and says, oh, you shouldn't have done that, but it's okay because we didn't technically say that you shouldn't have. I really do not buy the argument of Riot said, well, they said we really don't want anomaly stats posted, but they didn't technically say that we can't share them with other people. I don't buy that argument at all. I think the fact that you said that you can't share these publicly, the fact that Marcel knew that you couldn't share these facts publicly, and the fact that you gave them to players anyway, just proves that you knew that you were doing something wrong, but you did not want it to be public because I mean, yeah, you knew you were doing something wrong, which is, I don't know, it's crazy to me. It's crazy to me. But yeah, it does potentially open up Pandora's box if this stuff goes unpunished, where people say, okay, you know what, maybe I will make that tool that, you know, scrapes all these VODs of high elo players and get stats from that, and then I'll, you know, only give that to my friends, or I'll sell it to the highest bidder, right? You know, I know right after this augment stats ban, some pro players received DMs from people, and they were like, hey, I'm working on a dev team to like get augment stats essentially, and I'm gonna, you know, sell these stats. Are you interested? Which is crazy. We do not want that being the way that TFT works, where information like this is, you know, sold to the highest bidder, where it's behind these kind of like black markets of certain people have the stats, but other people don't have the stats. Like I said, that is worst case scenario. And so if you're not willing to police these things, then yeah, I do think you have to bring stats back. Now, do I think there is a world where they can police this correctly and stats can stay banned? Yes, I do. I do think that is absolutely possible if there is some kind of punishment here. Like I said, it's really, really tough. I don't think people should be like banned from the tournament for something like this. My usual go-to in things like this is a fine if it's not something really, really, really egregious. And this is getting on the line there. Like I said, the example of a player win trading in the World Championship, that has obvious consequences for the World Championship. The player, I feel like, obviously knew what they were doing wrong. And it has really, really, yeah, it has really, really bad consequences for competitive integrity. So that's a situation where I could see somebody getting banned. But like I said, I don't think Shunga should have got banned from one of the biggest tournaments of, you know, his life because he account shared for a few games. I think that was a crazy ban. And I do think just in general, Riot has gone, I've talked about this before, but Riot has gone more harsh than I think is necessary recently, because they don't want this sense of impropriety. They don't want people to be thinking, oh, you know, we're just going to allow people to do whatever. They want to be really harsh on these punishments. You know, the player who win traded one game on ladder against Kiyun, it was that player was in second. No, they were in first place. They were going to win the lobby, and they FF'd to Kiyun. They got banned from a cup. And obviously, like, a cup is not, you know, the biggest thing at the end of the world. You know, your EV on playing in a cup is honestly like, you know, $100 maybe. Like on time investment, you know, the Soju quote still stays, where he would make more money just running around people's yards, like picking up quarters off the sidewalk, than playing in a TFT tournament. But still, that was a pretty harsh punishment, where a player said, you cannot play in this tournament because of the potential sense of impropriety because you did this on ladder. So I think Riot's going to be that harsh. I don't know. There obviously needs to be a punishment here then. I would hope that they get into the pattern of doing less harsh punishments than that, and saying we are just going to do a punishment that makes that is, you know, makes sense with what you did in this spot. You know, maybe that's a fine, maybe that's some kind of the hard thing is, like, you know, I really, it would suck for these players to be banned from Macau. And also, like, I don't know, I'm not, once again, I said my thoughts on this are like pretty jumbled, but like, you know, like I said, I don't know if I said it in this VOD, because once again, thoughts are jumbled. I have a lot of feelings about this, but I've talked to Marcel before. He's a really, really nice dude. I've talked to some of the other people at like who are on the MetaTFT team. Like all the people I've talked to have been really, really nice people. They're genuinely good people, and I wouldn't want to see them get a harsh punishment. But that's the hard part, because I will 100% say I am biased in that degree. I like the people at MetaTFT, the people on the team. I think it's really, really cool that they're sponsoring a TFT team in the first place, because it means some people who wouldn't otherwise get to go, or people who would otherwise have to, you know, figure out different financial means to get to go to like Macau, end up getting support and being able to go. I think that's really good for the community, and I like all the people, which is why this is such a tough situation for me, which is why, like, I feel so bad about it, where I'm like, I really you know, wish that this was just, that this wasn't the case. And that's also part of the reason why I was like, do I make this video? I like these people a lot. I don't want to get anyone in trouble by making a video. And I doubt at the end of the day that my video is going to be, you know, the straw that breaks the camel's back, and all of a sudden, you know, somebody's going to get banned from a TFT tournament because I made a video. I definitely doubt that that's the case, but I did want to, as a member of community, just say that I do think, like, there needs to be some kind of punishment. And, you know, I think a lot of it will just go into like an investigation that Riot does. if it does become the case that there was more information given out, then I do think you can really start to think about bans. But as far as everyone said, I want to trust these people. I do not want to assume that anybody is lying in this situation. If everybody's telling the truth, and this was 2 anomaly stats that were essentially given out, I do not think that that is enough to ban people from tournaments. And I think you fine them some money, or I don't really know what the other the other option would be, like, aside from banning people, like, yeah, as far as like, you can't really like say like, oh, you can't play, in like X amount of games, because like you either ban them from the tournament or you don't ban them from the tournament, essentially. And so, if there's a bigger sense of impropriety found there, they're actually giving out more stats, then I think at that point you do have to just kind of say, okay, you guys, like, if you guys were actually, if augment stats were like given out, like, that is something that I think is a super, super obvious, like, that you should not have been doing, if that's the case. Or if more of this anomaly like stats were leaked, then I think then that becomes a place where you do have to start thinking about bans. So I hope Riot does an investigation into this. I hope that they make the right decision, whatever they end up deeming the correct decision based on the information that they're given. But I do think there has to be a punishment, like I said, because this is a situation where this matters a lot for competitive TFT. If this goes unaddressed, I think it can be really, really bad for competitive TFT, really, really bad for having no stats in general, if people really feel like there's this sense of impropriety. Okay, I've said my jumbled thoughts on all of this. Let me know what you guys think about this, because I do think this is something really important for the TFT community to talk about and think about, like, what is actually okay here? What kind of punishments are we thinking about? What should we be doing in this circumstance? And then what should the future of stats be? Should we end up in a world where we just give stats back to everybody? Some people have said that's the best case. Like I said, I do think it's possible to keep augment stats banned and just police them better, but we'll see. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I don't know. I'm kind of like deflated. Like, I don't know. I really, yeah, was not 100% sure if I wanted to make a video on this or not, but I feel like it is an important topic to discuss, and I want, it to be a topic of discussion in the community. So I feel like I have a platform, I should use it in this case to talk about something that directly relates to TFT, to the game that we all really, really love, and the game that we want to be, the best. We want to be able to go into Macau and it to be all hype and it to be all focused on who the best player is. But, if it's clouded by X player having extra information that someone else has, that feels really, really rough. All right, this video has gone way too long. All right, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.